saw this panic backstage. Probably someone will come with a microphone, but in the meantime, I'd just better remember my old theater practice. Jolly nice to see you all. Well, I just put it on to show you that we Brits don't have bad runners. Thank you very much. I'm not quite sure. Do I have to sort of wait for questions, or am I meant to? What am I? Okay, Tony, quick.
Hi. Welcome, by the way, John Rhys-Davies, everybody. This will be a little interactive. We're going to take questions also from the audience.
Very good, very good.
My question, first of all, is all this incredible training that you had, has it really helped you, or is it just that inner burning that helps?
In life we have all sorts of training, don't we, really? I mean, I actually know how to fly an aeroplane. Now, that involves a certain amount of training. And interestingly, some of the lessons you learn from flying, you apply to driving as well. Is the car fit to fly today? Do I know really where I'm going? What's the weather like there? What's the weather like in between? And more importantly, am I fit to drive today? Not just because did I indulge last night, but have I just had a fight with somebody? Have I just had a quarrel? Am I driving with rage burning through my veins because I didn't come up with that really superb slap-down answer until 15 minutes after the argument had ended? But all those things are training in their own sort of way. I mean, any married man here knows that we then undergo a lifetime of punishment training. Oh well, never mind. I don't really mean that. Well, maybe. Anyway, so anyone got any really interesting questions? Good. I was thinking about dragons. I see you brought your husband along. Is that? Oh, that's you, is it, darling? Oh, very good. Very good. Are you a bad wolf, or is it a small donkey? It's very attractive, whichever way you look at it. Yes. Right. Who's got the questions?
If you have a question for John, come up to the center here. We have a microphone set up.
Can you hold this for me? Do you mind? Can you record this? Thank you.
Where's the camera?
Nobody tosses a dwarf.
Hi. First, I just want to say, in 1981, I saw a movie that changed my entire life called Raiders of the Lost Ark. In that movie, and this kind of goes back to your theme of training, Saul is always singing HMS Pinafore songs. I was just curious what the inspiration for that was, whose idea that was, why he has that character.
The idea came from Steven Spielberg. You understand that the way we shoot films is completely insane. That was the last scene that I had in the film, but it was actually the first scene that I actually did. And as I recall, I turned up on the dockside, and the scene just simply said, "Indy and Marion say a sorrowful goodbye to Sarah." And there, sitting down, cross-legged with a typewriter, was Stephen. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Writing your words." And I looked down. I said, "Well, he wouldn't say that. He'd be more inclined to say da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da." And And Spielberg looked at me and said, all right, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He said, and by the way, your character, when he's high or happy, he bursts into Gilbert and Sullivan. Incorporate that at the end of the scene, will you? I drew myself up to my then full 6'1". I've shrunk a bit since then. Thank you, Disney, for dropping that wall on me and breaking my back in Croatia. And I drew myself up to my full height. And I started off to say, sir, I am a classical actor. I need weeks and weeks to prepare. And I said, all right. So that's what you've got. At least that's the legend that we put out. Right.
Sir, is it Sir John?
No. And the way I criticize every Prime Minister of Britain, it won't be either.
It's great to see you. Love both of your characters in the fantasy world. I mean, Sala, when I heard you were going to be in Lord of the Rings, love the idea.
Yeah.
Great. My question for you involves Sala. I was going to ask, has Steven Spielberg or George Lucas, did they ever approach you to come back as Sala in the fourth film, or have they talked to you about a supposed fifth?
Well, they certainly haven't talked to me about the fifth. I've dropped numerous hints. Subtle level, yeah. Stephen, have you noticed anything about 1 and 3? 1 and 3 are just better films than 2 and 4. And Stephen, I wonder why that is. I mean, is there something missing in 2 and 4? As a matter of fact, they did ask me to do Indy 4. They were going to blue screen it. They were going to have me walk into a room, sit in a chair, and clap. And they were going to incorporate that at in the wedding sequence. And I thought, you know what? I think the character's worth a bit more than that. You know, I think, yes, it's nice to have people there, but actually, he is a great character, Sarah. Interestingly enough, I think he is the last Egyptian and possibly the last Muslim in Western fictional sensibility who is a hero. I can't think of anybody else. And that may well be why he's not in the later ones. You know, the world of the 80s was actually still a fairly innocent world. The world of 2014 is now a far more polarized world. You know, and that's very sad. If we can't have Arab heroes anymore, then the world has gone wrong. And I don't think it's the fault of Steven Spielberg or the writers of fiction. It's just the times have changed, and we must just hope that one day the world will change again.
There's always a rumor going around that the Fellowship all shared such a time together that you got a special tattoo, and I was just curious if that was true, and if it's in a place where we can see it.
Those drunken little hobbits came to me and said, look, we've had this fantastic idea. We are all the members of the Fellowship are going to have a tattoo with the Elvish word for 9, is it? Yes, 9. And so, when are you going to have yours? And I looked at them with that fatherly, gentle way that I have. And I said, "Are you out of your minds? You think I'm going to be tattooed by a drunken Maori with a dirty needle? If I had to have a tattoo for every successful film I'd done, I'd be like the Illustrated Man." But they were insistent. 9 of the fellowship, 9 had to be tattooed. So I did what any self-respecting actor would do when faced with a dangerous stunt. I sent my stunt double, and he's got it. And I never inquired on what part of his anatomy.
My question for you is, when you found out that you were cast as Gimli, what did you think, and did you realize what you were in for?
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is, there was a little film director in New Zealand called Peter Jackson who'd done a number of small films, you know, with 4 or 6 leading people, and they were small films, low budget, not bad. The only snag is, if you have 6 weeks and 4 leading characters, every one of you in this room could direct a film. Unfortunately, most of you do. Sorry, that's so unkind, isn't it? The point I'm making is that you've got a small film, you've got a passion, you've got a good script, you can make it. But here's the thing, Tolkien actually sold the film rights of Lord of the Rings because he knew it had no film structure. It follows the sort of structure that he detected in the Icelandic sagas, and that is a completely non-linear type of structure. He was pretty confident that nobody could make a film with Lord of the Rings. And there's this little chap in New Zealand who is going to make 3 films, right? Spread over 18 months, right? Involving 22 major characters, a vast film crew, and he really thinks this is going to work. Okay, well, I tell you what, I've never been to New Zealand. I am very happy to go. Let's try and find one of those little characters who's meant to be there for a month or something like that. Go in, do one of those parts, come out. At least I've seen New Zealand. The film will never get past the first one. The film will, probably like other attempts to make them, it will absolutely grind to a miserable halt because the guy doesn't understand the scale of filming like that. You know, if you've got a 6-week schedule, that's fine. When you've got an 18-month schedule, and something goes wrong in week 5 or month 2, and you start getting behind, it just accumulates. The seasons change. You know, when that lovely sunny day when you were going to do things, you've got 10 foot of snow around. It's an organizational hell. If you're going to do something like War and Remembrance, or something like 18 months principal photography around the world, or Shogun, you know, 5 months in Japan. We got so behind with Shogun that they actually sent a guy out with authority to cut 1 hour out of the miniseries. And how we avoided that happening is another story. I see we have children in the audience, so I don't want to tell you the full sordid details of that. But anyway, locking up his passport in the safe was a good start. No, I'm sorry, the Japanese authorities have kept it. You can't get out yet. You're just going to have to hang on a bit. But it was anyway. That's a good thing. So there I am. I do a little audition. I send it in, and suddenly Peter Jackson wants me to play Gimli. Right. You spend 30 years of your career trying to become recognizable. And now they're going to turn you into a dwarf. Now, with due respect, I'm the biggest darn dwarf you'll ever see. Actually, there are one or two bigger ones now, I notice. Why would I want to do that? So I said, no. And first of all, my number one son, who is a great Tolkien fan, said, Dad, with respect, you're nuts. In every bookshop in the world, there's 2 foot of bookshelf space devoted to Tolkien. Think of what that means in terms of a fan base. And I thought, yes. And then my then agent, who is now my manager, Jeff, said, John, let me put this simply to you. If you turn down this part, I don't think we can continue to represent you anymore. That was okay, because I knew how this sad story would end anyway. So I said, fine, I'll go to New Zealand, and get me there nice and early, because I want to check it all out. You know, they're going to costume this, right? They're going to design this, right? Is there any expertise there in New Zealand at all? If you were going to do something like this, you'd have to do it in one of the major film capitals of the world. So I went, and for the first 2 weeks, I spent every morning and every afternoon in a different department. And slowly, to my horror, I realized that this little New Zealand director had created a department that had a level of excellence that you'd only find in the great film capitals of the world, in every department. This was tricky. Damn it, he's actually built a film industry to service this film. Because, you see, my ploy was simple. You know, I'd have a nice holiday in New Zealand, get to see the place, and then go up to him and say, look, I'm sorry, Peter. I realize you're going to make a masterpiece here, not. But unfortunately, you know, my old wife is very ill in England and I can't afford the time to stay away. You would have had to let me go. Well, what I found was a level of expertise that amazed me, impressed me, astonished me, and depressed me unutterably. But I still had one get out. How did this guy handle that crew of about 200 people? And so I went and watched him handle his crew, direct. And I realized that I was in the presence of a natural, brilliant, well-organized director of genius. And I did a 180-degree turn. At the first press conference we had, there were a number of people there, and I got up and I said, gentlemen, revise your expectations upwards. I'm going to make 3 predictions now. 1, this film is going to be bigger than, and they were just making the first of the new series of Star Wars. This film is going to be bigger than Star Wars. At which point, Peter Jackson buried his head in his hand. 2, these films are going to be amongst the biggest and most successful movies of all time, and they will change the way we make films. And 3, in 20 years' time, when you look back at the films that you've most enjoyed in your lives, Lord of the Rings is going to be there. And the local journalists, or, you know, one of the notes in this little review, the actor says, Lord of the Rings is going to be bigger than Star Wars. Hilarious, wonderful. Cut to 18 months later, Peter Jackson comes up to me and says, oh, by the way, you know when you said that? And I said, yes. I saw you burying your head in your hands. He said, oh, by the way, today we've just outgrossed Star Wars, the new Star Wars. The man is a genius. There are many great directors around. I've never known a great director who could actually create an entire film industry in New Zealand. Anywhere, to be honest with you. I mean, those guys existed in 1910 in Los Angeles. But there were a number of them, and they built it by themselves, and they were giants in their own way. Peter did it all by himself. Well, not really all by himself. He had a brilliant team. He is a master. And all I can say is that Lord of the Rings changed the way films are made. When you think about the epics that came out immediately after, Troy, Alexander the Great, these were meant to be the big films of their time. They were dwarfed by what Peter was doing. He's quite a good little fellow, that director down in New Zealand.
So you mentioned making a man of your size the size of a dwarf. So I'm curious of how the film process went that allowed you to look the size that you did compared to the other actors, and how that...
Well, nowadays they put Ian McKellen in one room, and they put the dwarves in the other room, and they've got cameras on each of them, and they've got a funny little computer here, and they can just dial the relative sizes in. In my day, it was quite different. First of all, you cut the leg there, and there, and you put them together. This doesn't make for a very easy way of fighting. Let me tell you, when you're on your knees, you can't really do that much. But the worst thing, of course, afterwards is growing it back together, because they take it out of the deep freeze and all. They take they dust off the blood and all that sort of stuff, and then you got to go the whole. Very uncomfortable. I suffer for my art, I tell you.
Thank you.
I don't know if you can remember, but what would be your favorite scene from Sliders?
Sliders, yes. Yes, the wounds have still not completely healed. Sliders could have been the best show on television. Sliders could still be on air now. You can go anywhere in space, you can go anywhere in time through something that those of you who are mathematicians and physicists will know as relativistic time dilation. We could have done anything. And somehow we just didn't have... I've been very unkind to the writers, and I asked myself, was that fair? The truth of it is, it was fair. Yeah. You know, if you're going to write science fiction, you should know a little bit about science and have read a little bit of fiction. However, we ended up doing ripping off every show that you can see. We did The Twisters, we did Tremors, we did Night of the Living Dead. We even used the same masks for the island of Dr. Moreau. And then there was, I went into the writer's room once, and there they were looking at Species, which had just come out as a DVD, and then they were saying, oh, we could take a bit of that, and she could say that, you should put that bit there. I've worked with real writers, people who actually sat down and thought up an idea and wrote it wonderfully. So we had a major split along that. When I'm told that what I should be playing with Max Arturo is the bad professor in Lost in Space, why? Why would you want to do that? Particularly since there's a shortage of scientists, there's a shortage of people doing maths physics and all those other things. And the one important thing to do is not to make your men of science look like mad professors or idiots or something like that. You know, science is... you can have fun with them. I mean, Max Arturo is risible in the sense that he's pompous, he's natural characteristic, actually. He's pompous, he's vain, he's opinionated. But the one thing he has, the one thing that I wanted to get across is that he is passionate about ideas. You know, intellectual passion is something that we don't see enough of, and it's as important as any of the other passions. We have got to be passionate about dreams. We have got, and this country does it, par excellence. I had the privilege of meeting a couple of your great astronauts the other day. One of them, Joe Edwards, and I had dinner. We were talking about this, and I met some of the guys who are building the next moon lander, the next Mars lander. I mean, brilliant young people. And the great characteristic they had was they have the American spirit, which basically is, if there is a problem, it can be solved. It's a question of sitting down and thinking about it and working it out. You have that in your genes, in the American gene pool. It is your glory. Never forget it. So I guess I cannot remember any scenes particularly. I mean, yeah, how can you deal with people when, you know, you say, now listen, you've got a neutron star entering the solar system. Yes, John, and we've checked it out. Well, more than that, you've actually got 3 neutron stars entering the solar system. Yep, they can come in clusters. You know that some scientist has been asked, some astronomer has been asked, could you have a cluster of neutron stars? And he's thinking, yes, you know, over, 2 or 3 billion light years, you might very well have a cluster. You know, and they spin, John. Yep. Every 24 hours, they're going to bathe the Earth in radiation, and we've got to stop it. I said, well, you know, they do spin, but rather quickly. I mean, think about sort of 10 times a second or something like that, and they do bathe you in radiation. The other thing is, a neutron star is still a star. Stars have mass. Mass affects the way the systems around it spin and work. Let me put it this way, if you had another star coming into the solar system, radiation would be the last problem that you'd have to deal with. You know, I mean, then we're building the atom bomb, all right? This is a great episode, I love it, probably my favorite episode. We're building the atom bomb, right? And I'm reading the script, and it says, no, we've got to put spectacles on it. And the prof is looking for bits of glass to put spectacles on this. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, my physics is 50 years out of date. Wait a minute. The problem is, in order to slow down the neutrons so they all arrive at that central piece, they had to, that's right, they used slabs of aluminium and things like that, so that everything, so you do slow down, and they call these spectacles. But you know, you're dealing with guys who, you know, really are thinking about eyeglasses and things like that. You know, and by the time you worked it out yourself, you know, we're meant to be shooting these scenes, and you're saying, wait a minute, this is rubbish. It doesn't matter, John, it's, you know, it's a television show. Well, you know, it has to be more than that. It has to be something that actually you learn. from. And the average American child watches about 14 hours of television a week. At least that was in the 90s. It may have gone up since then. What a lovely access you have to children's minds. What a great opportunity you have to entertain them and at the same time educate them and offer them big dreams. And you know, to waste it on nonsense is not something I like to do. Anyway, sorry about that. Was it a good scene? I'm sure there was. Can't remember, never watched it.
What's your favorite movie?
What's my favorite?
Movie.
What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie? Well, first of all, you are a beautiful girl. May I ask your name?
Taryn.
Terry.
Taryn.
Karen. Hey, we see when you get old and deaf, you will. But you will never get old. You'll never certainly get deaf. But my favorite movie, well, let's see, the movies that I've seen that you might have seen. Oh, I love Madagascar. Did you see Madagascar? This could be difficult. Let's see now. If I get down there, I'll never get out. So tell me about your favorite movies, first of all.
I don't know.
What about Saving Nemo? No? You're too young for The Princess Diaries.
I watched that before.
That's so cute.
I'll tell you what, the ones you like, I love. And I have to tell you, my little girl's a little bit older than you, I think. How old are you?
7.
7? My little girl's 8. So we've probably seen a lot of the same movies.
1 year older.
And you're good at maths, too. That's very, very good. Well, you are a stunner. And thank you, Mum, for bringing this fabulous, fabulous young lady here. Well done. Beautiful films. Anyway, so there you have it. What are my favorite movies? All right, well, I would think, on the arty side, Casablanca still. That wonderful French film, Les Enfants du Paradis. I mean, they're great, great movies. There are so many good movies and so many great actors and great film stars too. But anyway, anything that you watch, I approve of.
So you mentioned that you're classically trained as well. So, going in a different direction, what was your favorite production that you did on the stage, and which stage was it?
Gosh, well, I've done about 80 plays, I suppose, altogether. Generally, when I was a lot younger, actually. I like Shakespeare. And I've done about 26 of them, there you go. Great moments come to mind. I was playing Claudius in Hamlet at the Theatre Royal York, and our Hamlet, whom you will have never heard of, but a lovely and a nice man and a good actor, his father, he never really knew his father. His father had had an affair with, I think, the housemaid or something like that, and he was conceived as a product of that. And he just started to get to know his father when his father died. And there he was playing Hamlet, and he had just really lost his father. And because he was a good actor, he was allowing that to influence his performance. And I, as an actor, aware of the fact that he had lost a father, found Claudius's lines actually far more tender in real life. Your father had a father lost. That father lost his. And it's an extraordinary thing. You know that Claudius is actually a murderer and has killed Hamlet's father. But at the same time, Shakespeare allows for all sort of complicated emotions to come in. There would be many other things. I played Othello when I was 18 and deeply in love and losing her. Ooh. Beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is a green-eyed monster. I knew about that green-eyed monster. Made it make for a good performance, too.
John, we have time for about 2 more questions.
2 more questions, okay. Sorry, I've been yapping too much.
I remember your performance as Rodriguez in Shogun.
Ah, yes.
Goodness.
What was it like to play a swashbuckler before the era of CGI and fantasy taking hold?
We were
I appreciate it. I'm sorry.
really to film in that part.
I know.
Marvelous
I'm so
Richard
sorry.
Chamberlain.
I was like one of the
Gentleman,
last in
what a
line to thank
wonderful
you.
And consummately professional actor. Lovely man. Actually, James Clavell actually wrote the part for Sean Connery, who would have been very different and far more robust in many ways. But Connery actually turned it down because he was a film actor, not a television actor. And so Richard got the chance of playing it, and I think did a magnificent job. They were all wonderful. Frankie Sakai, who is a comedian. He's the sadistic torturer, watching people boil to death and things like that. Frankie actually was a comedian in Japan, and known for being a very funny man, and a lovely man. And of course the great Mifune, Toshiro Mifune, as Toranaga-sama. He was going through a very difficult divorce at the time, and there was a lot of pressure on him in Japan, and he would come in every day, we thought in character. And the only time I ever saw Richard annoyed was he said to me, do you know, if Mifune doesn't say good morning to me very soon, I'm going to hit him. And Chamberlain was lovely, he'd say, good morning, Mr. Mifune. Morning, Mr. Mifune. But Mifune was a magnificent actor. What was it like to play a swashbuckler before CGI? It was great fun. It was incredibly hard. It was hot, it was humid. We would have a shower and change our shirts 5 times a day, just to try not to stink. You understand that we meat eaters have a different body odor to the Japanese, who are very largely fish eaters, and our smell is offensive to them. And we were the stinky foreigners, all right. And we just try. You'd shower, you put a clean shirt on, you'd walk into the lobby, it was air conditioned, it was cool, you'd go outside, and instantly your shirt was soaking with smelly sweat. Anyway, tough times though. They built a galley in Japan. First time anyone had built a galley in Japan for 300 years, and it was top heavy. So the first day we actually go out, the sea is swelling. The waves aren't breaking. There's just the sun hitting the water and the light reflecting into your eyes, and the ship is going. Well, Chulia Elizondo was the DP. He was vomiting between shots. The director, I'm going to use the sofa, I really should be using the floor, but the director had taken 3 Dramamines, Jerry London, he was directing like this. Flat on the deck. Okay, right, let's go again, please. And one by one, crew members, cast members, all turned green and went to the side of the ship. By midday, it was clear that this was a really, really impossible task. We were all looking at Richard in the hope that he would say, "Oh, come on, guys. This is above and beyond the call of duty. This is ridiculous." But of course, Richard is a professional. And the one thing you have to do when you're the leading man is to hold the company together. So Richard would sit down, somebody would hand him his little umbrella to keep the sun off him, he would take out his fan, and he would sit there, and he would just talk, and somebody in his eye line would vomit over the side of the ship, and just turn his head away and keep talking. And because he wouldn't quit, we couldn't quit. And he held, and it was a really bad time. We'd gone 3 or 4 weeks over, maybe 5 weeks over in Tokyo. We were in deep financial trouble. And, which is of course why I thought Lord of the Rings would be pretty catastrophic. He held us together. And we finished the day,
all day,
and the next day we came back, and it was not quite as hard. The day after that, it got a bit better, but he held us together. So I was thinking of that when we are filming in Christchurch, well into our 14-month stint of filming, we arrive, and the rain has been so heavy that it has actually taken out 14 houses on the main road and taken out the main road as well. The production office is here, actors are in the hotels here, 3 miles, or single track, 19 miles all round. This is the only time I've ever had to get into my hotel room with a stepladder, making sure that the Wellington boots did not get too covered in water because the entire ground floor was flooded. That was the time the call sheet went out, "We will not be able to film tomorrow because the lake is underwater." And so was every bit of land around. So we had a day off. The following day we drove to another part of New Zealand. You understand, we're talking 200 or 300 crew members, all of whom have got to be found new hotel rooms, new places to stay, horses have got to be moved, canoes have got to be moved, all the lighting gear, the camera gear. It's a major production. That day we moved, and the day after we started on a different sequence in another part of New Zealand, and we went back to Christchurch 6 months later. When you see organization like that, you understand that you have to have the logistical genius of a Rommel to be able to make a film on that sort of scale. And that's really one indication of Peter's achievement. But the other is that you're all here because you saw the films. You're very bright, you're very intelligent, you're a wonderful audience, and I thank you all. Thank you very much. Can I just say something? I made a remark about your intelligence. The truth of the matter is, all audiences are slightly different. And the audience for Lord of the Rings is, I think, an extremely intelligent audience. And I was thinking why. And the truth of the matter is, it's a big book. It's a big, thick book.
It was important.
And the audience actually had read that book before they went to the film, or they saw the films and then went and read the book. And nobody can do that unless they're really very smart. And that's why, of all the audiences I've known, I think the Lord of the Rings audience is intellectually the smartest that I've known. And you bear that out in abundance.
We'll visit him at his booth. Thank you, John.